What's up everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to give you my thoughts as a professional player on the performance of the Nike Ja 3. These are way better than the other two models that released in the past in my personal opinion. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. The retail price is $125, which is also amazing. I can really leave an affiliate link in the description box down below because they're sold out everywhere. So just make sure to wait for the next colorway that's going to drop. These are by far my favorite colorway as well that has released so far. There's some other nice options, but in my opinion the pink and purple here just goes crazy. So as I said, let's start with the traction performance, a strong suit of the shoe, maybe even its best feature. This particular colorway has a translucent outsole. There's also some other colorways available that have a solid rubber outsole. I can't compare performance yet, but I'm also planning to get a pair with solid rubber outsole in the future. So then you can ask me if one or the other actually performs better. For the pattern, it's very interesting and kind of reminds me a little bit of what we saw on the Kobe AD NXT 360, as the outsole is made up of a lot of small Ja logos. So it's the Nike Ja logo that you can see also on the upper and on the tongue. And in my opinion, that's a really cool feature because it also performs extremely well. And it's just cool to get a reminder whose shoe this actually is at all times. And on indoor courts, this is one of the best bites I've experienced, not even this year, but all time. It's also got a very sticky sound when you first take them out of the box. So my unboxing, a lot of people thought I actually spilled some soda on the floor or whatever. The squeak itself also is very loud and screechy even. It of course has nothing to do with performance. I also didn't have issues with dust pickup. One issue that could be there is that the durability is not good. For indoors, you're totally fine, and also considering the retail price is still relatively low, in my opinion, that's fair. But if you're going to take these outdoors, they will wear down very quickly, unfortunately, because the cushioning setup is actually perfect for outdoors. It's full length Zoom X, but that's actually a detail Nightwing pointed out. I myself hadn't noticed it before. I watched his review as I got my pair relatively late. It's actually 2 layers of Zoom X, so we have a top layer and a bottom layer. The top layer is just your regular Zoom X, like we had it on the Nike GD Cut 3 as well, and the bottom layer is recycled Zoom X, and those 2 layers are encapsulated in this plastic midsole here. So that acts like a cage and actually makes the cushioning setup very enjoyable and stable as well. I heard some other people on social media that had a pair say that the shoe feels unstable because of the cushioning setup. Now, in my opinion, the cushioning setup is perfectly stable and fine. That's just because it's caged and you're not too high off the ground. It's still a relatively nice amount of court feel available in the shoe. So in my opinion, that's not the reason for being unstable. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the video when I talk about the materials and the support features. Just to finish up the cushioning setup, as I said, it would be perfect for outdoors, but the durability just isn't there. It's not as bouncy as the Zoom X on the GD Cut 3 in my personal opinion, but it's just a very comfortable and plush ride. Good impact protection in the heel, and as I said, still relatively decent court feel. Last but not least, for the cushioning category, the insole, just a basic foam insole, so you can definitely switch that out for something more supportive. I'm also for sure going to try them with my Victory insoles, as I do that a lot of times with shoes that lack torsional support. And before we move to the support features, just 2 things. I want to apologize for not having posted or uploaded the video in a while. It's almost been 2 weeks now, but I had the flu. I was really sick, couldn't even head to the court to practice. My throat is still a little sore. I think you can hear it in my voice. That's why I didn't upload a video. Just wanted to recover fully. And you might see that I have a really weird sunburn. If I put up my hair, you can see it even better. I had some sunglasses on. I was at the lake with my mom because I visited her after practice, and I got a really stupid sunburn here, even though I was underneath an umbrella at all times. If that looks weird to you, I apologize as well. And now back to the Ja 3 for the support features. I mentioned it already. We've got a heel counter, we've got a caged midsole or caged Zoom X midsole. We have little plasticky overlays here on the materials that also kind of act as outriggers or a little bit of a cage. And we have a very small, and I really mean small, shank plate. I'm going to put a picture of that on screen. It's just a tiny little thing here in the middle and doesn't do all that much for torsional support. Now, if I try to twist and turn them, it's okay, I would say. I would prefer the flex to be a little bit more in front, but it's alright. And now if I try to twist and turn them like that, they're actually relatively stable down here in the bottom of the shoe, but the issue kind of comes from the materials, because the materials are a textile mesh-like upper and they're very soft. And not at first they're actually pretty stiff and very snug as well, but the more you wear them, the more you heat up the materials, the more they will break in and the softer they get. And the materials are just not containing enough to keep your foot on the footbed. So if I'm doing really hard lateral cuts and movements, the materials just won't hold your foot and your foot will move out over the footbed just a tiny little bit, and the shoe will feel like you'll twist up or it'll twist up on your foot, if that makes sense. The lacing system itself actually works really well. One thing I noticed that I thought is really weird is how short the tongue is. Just look at that. It's a very, very short tongue. You can't pull it up even anymore. So that's just a detail that kind of annoyed me a little bit when tying the laces, because I wish I just had a little bit more space, not to a point like where it's like the MB4 where the tongue is way too high in my personal opinion, but a little bit more would have been nice. As I said, the laces actually do a good job, but the main issue with the support is just that the materials are slightly too soft after you break them in to actually hold your foot and to keep it on the footbed. So in my opinion, the support issue does not come from the cushioning, but actually from the upper. Now, with all that being said, do I think they're dangerous to play in? Not at all. They're a very, very fun shoe, and if you're actually not that heavy or if you don't put that much force in your shoe, you will probably not even notice that. I also only noticed it on very, very hard lateral movements, so I think these will still stay in my rotation because they're just very, very fun to play in. If you're someone who has a lot of weight or who puts a lot of force in their shoes and who generally struggles to find a supportive shoe, these are probably not for you, but in all other cases, you should be good to go, especially for younger players or kids that want to get this shoe. You should be totally fine in my personal opinion. Now for the materials, last performance category I mentioned already, it's a textile mesh like upper and it breaks in very, very nicely. It's also very comfortable. Padding is adequate, not excessive. There's a little bit in the heel area, a little bit on the tongue. The laces don't dig in through the tongue, so that's also a nice detail. They're just the tongue is padded enough to prevent that, and the more you wear them, the softer they will get, so that's actually also a nice feeling because the fit is very, very narrow. And if you've been following my channel, which I hope you're doing, if not, do so right now. I'd really appreciate if you could leave a like on the video, also comment and subscribe to my channel. As I said, I have extremely wide feet and these really hurt me at first. On the right foot I felt some pinching right here, but the more I wore them, I'd say it's even like one full session of like a shoot around or working out in the gym and wearing them a little bit at home. So all in all, maybe like 2.5 hours, and then it'll start to soften up. And once I did that, it was actually very comfortable and I could also wear them with wide feet, but I went my usual full size up, which I do for all shoes. So my recommendation for the fit would be to go true to size if you have narrow or normal sized feet, and maybe half a size up or even a full size if you have extremely wide feet. One thing that can be an issue there is if there's too much space, the materials are, as I said, not as containing, so that could then be a very big issue if you feel like your foot is moving around inside of the shoe. For me it works because my feet are still wider than the shoe actually is, but if you size up too much, it could be dangerous. So maybe if you have the opportunity, try them on in store if possible. If not, maybe order 2 sizes, send one back if that's an opportunity for you, if that's possible for you to do. For all that being said, the last thing I want to talk about is the weight. I was actually surprised when I put them on the scale because they feel relatively lightweight in my opinion, but my size 14 comes in at 475 grams, and in comparison with the Ja 2, which you can see back here, they come in at 426 grams. So that is actually a big difference because the Ja 2s were very, very light, and I honestly didn't notice that these were so much heavier, but apparently they are. It doesn't bother me at all. They feel very good on foot. Another nice detail is the box. I think it looks very, very cool. You can also see it here in the background. I was going to put a little close-up of it on screen. And to summarize, the Ja 3 is definitely the best shoe of the line, and in my opinion also one of the best shoes, or one of the best basketball shoes of 2025. They'll definitely make my top 10 list at the end of the year. They're incredibly fun to play in. I really enjoyed the traction setup. I love the cushioning. Zoom X is amazing, and I hope Nike continues to give us Zoom X in cheaper shoes as well, as these are only $125. Of course, for some people that's still a lot of money, and the materials could be a little bit more supportive. Maybe they could have added a bigger shank plate as well. That would be nice, but as I said, you can just swap out the insole if you have custom orthotic insoles, or just move insoles, victory insoles, whatever. And the support features I just talked about them are decent, but could be better. Overall, I'd rate them probably like an 8.5 out of 10 for all categories. I also have a shorts review if you want to have like my ratings for traction or cushioning or separately, or if you just want to have a quick look. With all that being said, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a follow here or a subscription here and on my other socials on Instagram and TikTok. I usually post my reviews and initial thoughts or unboxings a little bit quicker there, as YouTube videos just take more time to produce. Comment your thoughts on the Ja 3. Did you hoop in them already? How do you like them? I actually really enjoy them. They're for sure going to stay in my rotation. Have a good one. See you next time.